Welcome to another edition of Monkey Knife Fight Picks here on Fantasy Focused as we break down our picks through Monkey Knife Fight for the tilt between the Atlanta Falcons and the Dallas Cowboys heading into week 2 of NFL action. Now, if this is your first time coming across Monkey Knife Fight, go to monkeyknifefight.com, create an account, and when you make your first deposit, use the promo code FOCUSED. When you make your first deposit of $50 or more, Monkey Knife Fight will automatically match it up to $50. I'm here, Derek Tate, alongside Ryan Levy and Matt Bucks. We got the entire crew to break down this tilt. So, boys, we got ourselves an interesting 0-1 matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the Atlanta Falcons. Both teams in need of a win. The Falcons got waxed by Russell Wilson and company. And the Dallas Cowboys, kind of an opening week. I thought it was an opening week upset against the Los Angeles Rams, who look like a completely different team than they did when the Cowboys put it on them at the end of the 2019 season. So, Bucky, I'm going to throw it over to you first before we kind of break down our Monkey Knife Fight picks. We got Julio Jones, who is potentially going to be on the shelf. He is questionable officially for Sunday, dealing with a hamstring injury. How much does that change your outlook for him and Calvin Ridley and the rest of this Falcons offense heading into this tilt against the Cowboys?
I think it's certainly a bump for Calvin Ridley, but I think everything remains the same. They have great receiving threats on that team, including Hayden Hurst. Thank you. I think they're going to be just fine without fully healthy Julio, but I think it makes very intriguing matchups for Monkey Knife Fight games because I do think Julio at least gives it a go. And how limited is he? That's always the question mark, but it's not like fantasy football where you have to start him in your lineup and whatever he does or doesn't do really screws you or really propels you. We have the opportunity now kind of hedge that and figure out where that lies and use it to our advantage.
Levy?
Yeah, I'm with you there, Buck. I think Julio plays, but if you want to pit him against Ridley this week, I'm going to lean Ridley for sure on a banged up Julio. Maybe he's more of a decoy this week, but I mean, Vegas is expecting this to be, I believe, the highest scoring game of the week. Yeah, 53.5. They've got the spread set at. So we got some fantasy fireworks. That's what that means. I'm ready, boys.
So last week we saw, I think that we got a little bit of a preview of that. This Falcons defense, even though I think that they have a decent amount of talent, they really struggled. And you're now having to have to face off against Dak Prescott. And even though they lost their tight end, Blake Jarwin, they're still dealing with one of the best trio of receivers, arguably the best trio of wide receivers in the National Football League. Another guy that you need to keep an eye on, though, even though I practiced fully yesterday, was Amari Cooper. He's been dealing with a little bit of an injury as well, showing up on the injury report, but he does look like he is going to be good to go for this matchup against the Falcons. But first one, we've got Matt Ryan versus Dak Prescott. And Bucky, you're beating your chest about Hayden Hurst. Matt Ryan threw for 450 yards last week, and guess how much Hayden Hurst had of that little chunk of the pie? 38.
He had approximately 9% of
it.
9%, Derek, is how I look at it.
There you go. But so Matt Ryan threw for 450 last week, boys. He's going up against Dak Prescott, who's getting 10.5 passing yards. So, Levy, I'll throw it to you first between this. Basically, pick them between Matt Ryan and Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I'm going to go the Matty Ice side on this. I believe in the running game a bit more for Dallas, even though Gurley didn't look bad. But I do believe Dallas is going to be playing from ahead here. I thought that on Sunday Night Football too, but that didn't work out so well. So I believe that Dallas gets back on track here. And for that reason, I'm going to go game script Matty Ice. Maybe he throws for 400 again. So 10.5 yards is nothing. So I'll take the Matty Ice side here.
I'm taking Matty Ice. Game script be damned. Matty Ice is going to chuck that rock for 350 plus.
Well, in order to keep up, I really do think that the Dallas Cowboys are going to put a pretty decent offensive performance against this Atlanta Falcon defense. I don't know how much Atlanta's going to be able to slow down Dak Prescott and this rushing game of Zeke Elliott. And even, to a lesser extent, Tony Pollard. But yeah, Matt Ryan's going to have to throw to keep up. The only thing that sucks is that if you don't have a full Julio, how much does that, close up everything else for the other guys that went for, 8 receptions, 100 plus yards, and Russell Gage and Calvin Ridley. But if Julio's a go, I still think Matt Ryan's going to have to throw the ball a lot to try to keep up with the Dallas Cowboys. For that reason, I do give the nod to Matt Ryan as well. So now we got. We already talked about this. Julio Jones is not 100%. And Calvin Ridley's getting a reception basically in this heads-up matchup between these two Falcons pass catchers. Give me Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with that decision. I mean, even last week with a healthy Julio who had a monster game, Ridley had the better fantasy day technically with the 2 tutties. So I'm going to go Ridley here for sure.
Yeah, banged up Julio, but we've seen banged up Julio ball out. So, but I'll take a healthy Calvin Ridley coming into his own in the league. And I think the matchup is great for both players. But Calvin Ridley, I'll take the advantage because out of the gates, Ridley's up.
All right, and the final one we got right here is a matchup of the 2 running backs. Now, when taken into account, we have to look at what the opposing teams did last week to these rushing games or rushing defenses, and the duo of Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers both combined for 100 yards rushing. Malcolm Brown in particular was the leading rusher for the LA Rams against the Dallas Cowboys with 79 yards rushing. When you're taking a look at Todd Gurley, who I thought looked decent in his debut as an Atlanta Falcon, but of course game flow did not favor him, falling behind only 14 carries for 56 yards. But we're talking about what Zeke Elliott did in week number 1, boys, and he looked like the Zeke that we all remember. No ailments of being in Cabo, 96 yards rushing. I thought he looked spry. I thought he was very elusive at the point of contact. And of course, Zeke is Zeke when it comes to, playing a little bit of bully ball and as a physical runner. So for me, I just feel like the game flow is going to favor Zeke. If I think that the Falcons are going to be playing from behind and are not going to have many answers for this Dallas offense, give me Zeke Elliott, even with the fact that he's got to outrush Todd Gurley by 35 yards on the ground. But I do think that takes place. So give me Zeke, who I expect to see 20 to 25 carries this week.
Cabo, Coachella, the Maldives, it don't matter. I'm taking Todd Gurley here.
Wow.
Okay.
All
Look,
right.
Here's what I saw last week out of the Dallas defense. Pretty susceptible to some mediocre performances at running back last week. They gave up about 145 or 150 yards on the ground. Todd Gurley's going to keep it within 35 yards.
All right. So I'm the deciding factor.
You are the deciding factor here, Levy.
No pressure. All right. So Vegas expects this game to be closer than maybe we think it will be. 3.5 point favorite for the Cowboys, but I do think that they lead most of this game. And there's no doubt in my mind that Zeke is just on another level than the current Todd Gurley. So I'm going to go with Zeke here. I agree. I think he gets 20 plus carries again. I only see Gurley with 15 or so, and I do expect them to be playing from behind. So I'll take the 34.5 yards, even though that's a hefty number. I'm going to go with Zeke.
Throw Buckey in the bathroom on this pick.
That's fine. I'll be in there. Just again, throw me a sandwich.
I can do that. So
I love rapid fire. I love it.
Speaking of which, we got the 35 times buy-in. Victor Jace joining us live and play. Look, at least I love playing these 35 times buyers. You got to pick 6 more or less, whether you're going to go ahead and play for fantasy points or for yardage totals, receptions. I personally like playing the contests that involve the reception totals, yardage, stuff of that nature. I feel like I have a better beat on that than fantasy points, which can be very touchdown reliant, and just those are damn near impossible to predict. But here we go. This is what it looks like. Matt Ryan, 315 passing yards. And Dak Prescott, the more or less set at 305.5 passing yards. Boys, that's really high for both players, but we saw Matt Ryan just shred that more last week with 450 yards through the air. So how do you see the two quarterbacks? Levy, I'll throw it to you first.
Oh, man, that makes me sick to see numbers this high. I'm going less on Dak for sure. But
Okay.
if we're going to stick to the game script, or what I believe is the game script here, I'll go more on Matty Ice hesitantly. It doesn't feel great. That's just such a high number, but again, if I think they're going to be playing from behind, I will smash the more on Matty Ice and less on Dak.
Bucky?
I said earlier in this video 350, so I'll go more for Matty Ice, less for Dak.
I'm on board with, because again, we're going. I think a lot of these more or less prop bets, you have to accurately predict game flow. So if we're committing to the fact that Matt Ryan's going to have to play from behind, throw the football to try to keep up with the Dallas offense, then yeah, I think that he accumulates 315 yards through the air. So, and Dak, he'll be effective, but 305 passing yards is that's a high total for a team that I think is going to be playing with a lead and is going to lean on Zeke. And speaking of Zeke Elliott, 95.5 rushing yards, more or less, Bucky?
Less, Derek?
Nah,
Functions of 90.
This is the one guy. Zeke every week. Give me more. Feed me.
Does it concern you at all, Levy, that last week this Falcons defense did a pretty damn good job on Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde? That's the only thing that makes me raise an eyebrow to picking them more for Zeke.
Much better offensive line there in Dallas, though.
Agreed, 100%. But still, I just think it's worth bringing up as like a talking point.
Sure.
No, I mean, I have less just because I think he runs 20 times for 88 yards. They're pretty damn good at setting these. Like, he should be right around there. I'm going to go on the left side because founder, CEO, less Inc.
Well, what happened last week is Zeke ran for 96. So they're just basically saying from last week, copy and paste. And, you know, is he going to do better or go less than this week? So, I mean, it makes sense.
You are the deciding factor, Derek.
Game flow. I'm going with Zeke. I'm going to go more. I'm going to go more on this contest. I do believe that the offensive line, Bucky, is better, like you mentioned. I think they're going to be able to impose their will, and I don't see the Falcons really having much of an answer for this entire Dallas offensive unit. They struggled against Russell Wilson. They're going to struggle against Dak Prescott, and you have to respect the weapons on the outside for Dallas, and I think that that's going to open some things up for Zeke. And the way that they're going to try to play this game, the way to win football games for the Dallas Cowboys is to get Zeke, feed Zeke early and often. So, yeah, give me Zeke Elliott on the more. Julio Jones, boys, I think this one's easy when he's dealing with a hamstring ailment. I'm going less on Julio Jones.
Agreed.
Yep, 100%.
He's part of my team.
5.5 receptions for Calvin?
More.
Give me that. Give me that all day. And I am with the Falcons probably throwing the ball quite a bit to try to keep up with the Cowboys from my estimation. So Ridley, what he did last week, if you bump up his targets or you make him the primary focal point of the passing game with a limited Julio Jones, I like that more all day.
So you keep saying like game script, game flow when it comes to this Dirk Cutter-led offense. What does a Dirk Cutter-led offense do?
Stink.
They just throw the damn football like 60 times a game, man.
Yeah.
For me, that's more. And I think Gage has another good game as well.
I think Gage has a great game. Because if we have Julio limited in any way, shape, or form, you know, I mean, think about this. Russell Gage last week, had 11 targets, 37 snaps out of the slot, 8 receptions for 98 yards in damage against the opposing slot cornerback for the Seattle Seahawks. His name is slipping my mind at the current moment. There was a couple of different guys, but they all got Russell Gage last week. So I'm all on board with Russell Gage having another pretty damn good game here.
Love it.
All right. So, yes, I agree with myself. Moving on to Amari Cooper. 78.5 receiving yards. Cooper, again, showed up on the injury report this week, but looks like he's going to play. Cooper had a pretty darn good game against Jalen Ramsey. Like, I was fading Amari Cooper in a lot of scenarios into the week 1 tilt, and Cooper kind of made me pay for it. I thought Cooper looked great. I mean, his route tree wasn't anything more than slants, outs, and hitches last week, but he was effective against a damn good corner. So now this week, against the Atlanta secondary, Bucky, you got more or less on Amari.
I'm going to go more here. I think he ends up around 90 yards.
Oh, man. Even with him banged up.
I don't really care.
He had a good game last week, Derek, but still, I mean, on 14 targets, 10 for 81, he's only averaging 8 yards a catch. I'm going to go less.
Okay. I mean,
I know the matchup is good, but if he's truly banged up, shocker, Amari Cooper's banged up, right? I'm going to go less.
there's a lot of talent on the defensive side of the football for the Atlanta Falcons, but they just can't seem. I mean, I feel like Dan Quinn, I expect more out of this defense than what we've gotten in recent years. And you've got Amari Cooper, who's going from facing off against Jalen Ramsey to AJ Terrell, a rookie from Clemson. I just think that Amari Cooper is able to carve out at least 80 yards receiving. I will go more. I think even though I don't expect the Cowboys to be playing from behind, I expect them to get a couple big plays in this game. So for that reason, I think Cooper, carves out one or two of those big plays down the field and is probably the primary ball carrier or primary going to see the most targets out of this receiving group. So, yeah, give me the more on Amari Cooper.
Hell yeah.
Hell yes. All right, so that'll do it for this. And you know what? We're playing this 35 times, Brian. What game show would you guys be on if you had the choice? I mean, that's a Victor Jace with another heater. You guys got any that come to mind? I think Wheel of Fortune would be the one I'd want to play.
Price is Right, baby. That's me all day.
Oh, Great British Baking Show.
Can't teach that from. I mean, Buckey, I did not see that coming. But so let's go ahead and that'll do it for this episode of our Monkey Night Fight picks here on Fantasy Focus. If you have not yet done so, and this is your first time coming across the channel, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any of our fantasy football content heading into the rest of the 2020 NFL season. And this is your first time coming across Monkey Night Fight. Check out their website, create an account, use the promo code FOCUS when you make your first deposit. Monkey Night Fight will match any deposit up to $50 on your first deposit when you use the promo code FOCUSED. And until next time, everybody, later, says the Tater.
See you guys.